All right. It is another great day on Black Belts and Boardrooms. Man, it was snowing at one point. Now we got sun, 78, some wind. I went outside. You don't know if you got to put on shorts, put on jeans, whatever, but it is definitely a great day. And who we have on the podcast, man, I am so excited. I know we know this person. She is definitely a friend of the show, a friend. Man, I tell you, inspiration. Amir, who do we have today?
Well, Renard, I'm going to pick on the word friend because Fern Johnson is somebody who is a friend of ours. And, you know, Fern, I've said your name already, but here's what I want to make sure I also do. And this is something that I'm impressed with personally. You're not only somebody who is a known leader in the technology space, you've led large organization, but you're also somebody who is an award-winning mentor. You've also been nominated as one of the best or one of the executive ladies to look out for. You've not only spent time in tech, but you've also done a lot of work in inclusion or DEI space. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot to pick on in those areas as well. But audience members, we have Fern Johnson today. Fern, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so impressed by you two gentlemen. You're just phenomenal leaders in your craft on both the black belt side as well. I've learned a little bit more about that recently, and also in what you do in your corporate world. So I love that they fuel each other. And that's what I walked away with in our conversation is the discipline and the drive and the calm and the resolve it gives you, especially in our corporate careers that you have. You need that. Otherwise, you could just go cuckoo. So thank you for having me. I'm fans of this podcast. I'm fans of you guys. So you'll know I'm high energy. So I'm going to bring it. It's Friday, and we're going to have a great conversation today. What you got?
Well, Fern, your energy is definitely infectious. So let me start by asking you this, question first. So you've been obviously a leader in the operations space for quite some time. Did you always start in operations? What is that journey like for Fern early on in her career?
Oh my God, great question. Let me get this. Let me get the seat ready for this conversation. Oh, here's the news break. I'm extra, and I just want to tell you, you're welcome, because it just provides a little extra color for you, and it's great, right? So that's a good thing. I didn't start my career in tech, so I didn't even start in operations. My father got me introduced into technology, and before I even knew what it was, I started tech as a teenager. So just think this Bronx girl moves to Connecticut. Our family had moved from the Bronx, New York to Connecticut. It's like moving from Dallas to rural Oklahoma. You're like, what in the world is happening to my world? But in our basement, we had all of this technology. So I'm a 70s baby. We'll leave it at that. And my dad worked for companies like Union Carbide, Deck Digital, Wang. I'm not sure if you've heard of these organizations, NCR, Fiserv, AT&T. And we had technology always in our house. And so I was learning how to repair, not laptops, the big box machines, the big white box, IBM machines, the first Mac Square book, with the Square drive, learning all the applications on there. So that was really my first foray into technology. Fast forward, and I ended up at PepsiCo about 6 months after I left university. And within a year, I was in an IT role where it wasn't quite operations, but it was infrastructure. And we were deploying infrastructure across North America. It was called the Lands Across America program. And it was our first foray of putting in a formalized network, routers, servers, hubs, not laptops, PCs, printers, and getting that really networked, local area network, wide area network on all of our facilities across PepsiCo North America. So I had the dubious to go out to Los Angeles, Southern California, and make sure all of our manufacturing facilities were connected, and worked with a vendor that we were working with, AT&T at the time. So this is like 90s, right? and we were laying down the first set of infrastructure to connect all of SoCal. So back at the time, PepsiCo had what we call business unit regions, and SoCal was a business unit region. I had 19 locations, so I was kind of planted in LA, but then I went all up and down the coast, and I went out to Utah, and Vegas was all of my territory, deploying this local area networks and infrastructure. Fast forward up and down in different parts of my career, I'm sure we'll talk about that. I ended up back in infrastructure in my last role as CTO vice president, and I was accountable for infrastructure in every region of the world. And think about last mile communications of your network that goes to the facilities. Think about desktop services, end user services, repairing your phone, and your phone goes awry. My team would address that, or your laptop has an issue. They would deploy it. Um, Greenfield, brownfield locations at PepsiCo, we would help stand those up or retrofit those. So it was a much broader scale of an infrastructure role. But I started on the infrastructure side when I got into tech, and I kind of ended on the infrastructure side at PepsiCo with a lot of hops and moves in between that made for an absolutely wonderful, phenomenal career, 30-year career at an amazing organization.
Fern, of all the names you listed there, Wang was the only one I didn't recognize. So I
Ah,
don't know what that says about me, but I recognized every name except Wang.
so Wang was a Japanese-based software technology company. I think their U.S. location was in Ohio. Their U.S.-based, kind of headquarters was Ohio. So yeah, my dad worked at all those places. So I would, talk about my father, and folks would be like, "What is that?" Back in those days, it was called telecom. It wasn't even called IT or tech. I think it went from telecom to MIS or IS systems, right? So the name is morphed to where now I feel, and you guys can tell me this in your workspaces, I don't even think we're calling it information technology anymore. I think it's just tech. And as we've brought in the name and the impact it's have, it's not IT, it's just technology. At least that's how I'm seeing it. How are you guys seeing it?
Yep,
Yeah,
technology.
I agree. I agree. Everyone usually says technology for the most part. The whole landscape of IT or the department, et cetera, has changed so many through the years. We always joke we used to be the people who keep the lights on, and now we became strategic partners for the business now because no business can operate without technology now. It's like it doesn't exist anymore. So times have changed.
But that's great. So on that point though, I love that because remember the day when the business would have a strategy, and then it's like, okay, after they've devised their strategy, oh, let's go get technology engaged. Like, and it was like, okay, well, we can't even deliver that. So now you've come up with a strategy and made commitments on financials we can't even deliver against. I'm happy that that doesn't happen anymore, right? And that we're not the laggard, technology is not the laggard to the strategic discussions, but we're there first and foremost. And I think it's wiser from a business perspective. And as you're crafting a transformation and leveraging technology, you have to be at the forefront of that. To the flip side of that, everyone's a technologist now, right?
Yes.
So everyone's understanding of technology has gone from a base level to everyone's operating from here, right? So where you could come in and be that, hey, I'm the technology person who understands. Like, no, everyone is up their game. Everyone's upskilled and reskilled effectively. So I think that's a healthy challenge that we have to work.
It's that's an interesting topic that you've just now touched on, Fern, because it makes me want to dive straight into AI right now and what it does to operations technology, which I think so when I think about the space you were in, and please correct me on this one, I think more it's operational technology than it is information technology. Is that fair for me to phrase it that way?
So there's IT and OT, and so there
Yes.
is there is very specifically OT from a supply chain perspective, and whether or not you're dealing with very old OT, right, operational technology that's not even really connected, right, to more advanced. Yeah, I was in both spaces, so we do look at it differently. We looked at the IT infrastructure separate than the OT infrastructure, and really the OT infrastructure, really hardcore OT is about what's actually moving a machine in a plant, right? And that may or may not be connected, to your Allen Bradley system may not be connected to your water filtration system, or it may be, right? Depends on how old your plant is. And, what the interesting part is with OT trying to, a lot of organizations like PepsiCo and other CPG organizations grow through acquisition. So as you acquire different manufacturing facilities with different equipment, trying to retrofit that to a standard is very expensive. And those capital projects are very costly. So you end up with, I don't want to call it a hodgepodge, but you end up with growth through expansion, right? In that you've grown and grow through acquisition, you've got a myriad of systems there, and they're not always connected. Um, I think the OT space is a great playground because there's so much diversity in the technology there. There's so much opportunity. And what was kind of cool when I did my OT stint, my true OT stint, it was with the cybersecurity hat on. So I did a couple of years running a global program underneath a phenomenal cybersecurity leader named Sarah Andrews, who was the global chief CISO at the time. She's now since moved on and is an Experian doing phenomenal things. But she was great in like, how do we protect? What are our risks? How do we manage our risks? And how do we protect the crown jewels of PepsiCo? So that was a wonderful opportunity for me to take what I knew, which was how to deploy infrastructure in a manufacturing capacity, but then wear a cybersecurity hat on it. So I do a ton of mentoring and talk to the next generation. That's kind of my remit right now, is working with the next generation of leaders in tech. If you can get time in cybersecurity, like jump, like don't walk, don't run, like hop into cybersecurity, it completely increases your awareness of the impacts of cybersecurity, impacts of security in how you run your infrastructure, your operations, how you develop your applications, how you think about AI, um, the gamut. So for all of your listeners, if you're in tech, if you're not in tech, if you can just get a couple of years of cyber experience, you'll be it will not fail you. It will serve you continuously in your career.
You've teed that up perfectly, Fern, because I I was gonna ask you, because you do have a great mentorship quality about you. How do you see, especially the younger workforce today? You see these reports out there. Hey, you're not building that pipeline. You don't have this mentorship and apprenticeship program. So how do you see that changing with AI? And you've seen the gamut: OT, IT, cybersecurity. What do you think the landscape should look like if we're going to be better leaders building organizations that are sustainable?
Well, that was a mouthful, Amir. I mean, what part? That was a mouthful question. So let me break that down. For the mentoring piece, there's still an opportunity for the younger generation to learn from those who've come before, and let's say the more mature generation to learn from those who are up and coming. We think differently, we learn differently, we adapt differently. And so that bi-directional mentorship, I think, is absolutely still critical because of all the technology that today's workforce is leveraging out the gate. What we have to continue to make sure that we're developing are thinking skills. And so AI will accelerate. It's a tool to accelerate you getting access to information. It's a tool to accelerate how you do things, but you still have to understand what's right and wrong. You still have to be able to take the concepts that are being brought to you on AI and be able to understand its meaning and its impact for the business issue or business problem you're trying to solve. So I think mentoring is still needed. I think AI is an accelerator. They are tools. We still have to think, right? We still have to be able to articulate strategy, the mission and the vision, right? And then tell how AI is going to enhance that. So I think all those things are still critical for this next generation to understand how to do. And then for those old farts, I mean, that would be you two gentlemen, because I'm still so young.
Thank you, Fern. Thank you. I
No,
was not sure.
just a little, no, we have to learn. I will tell you, I've got a number of mentees who are 1, 2 years out of university. I'm learning from them every day. Outside of the the whole auntie, and this is what they mean by they're clapping, like, like before we would do that back in the day, that, in the 90s, if it would snap, now it's like this, right? But I am learning how they're thinking, and some of my older school stalwart perspectives need to see a different point of view, and they're helping me with that, and what's resonating with them. And that's important for me because if I want to be successful in helping this next generation, pulling from my 30 years to share out with them, if I can't speak in a language that they can understand, then it's not landing. And if it's not landing, then I'm not being effective or having value to the population that I really want to help them accelerate their path to greatness. I want them to get as far as they want to go quicker. And that's really important to me.
What should we learn as old fogies in the leadership circle?
As mature executives that we are, still looking so good, so good. I think we have to have patience for this next generation that are coming in. I think we have to make sure that we're intentional with how we're using AI and that AI is a part of our everyday. And we think as a leader with use of AI, is it moral? Is it ethical? So how do we apply that? Be in the conversations with leaders around AI and make sure that the young folks are talking about it. I still talk to young folks today who won't touch one AI tool. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So I think we need to help them understand the value so that they don't get left behind, right? And we have to have patience to learn from them and understand that it is a two-way street. So um, that's what I would say that as the old farts, we have to have a lot more patience and we have to embrace this next generation um, even faster than what we were doing before. So that's how I'd answer that one.
You
I love
you
it.
actually hit a, key point when you saying learning from the younger generation. That actually happens in martial arts. Even from the white belts, we learn either way. So you become a black belt, but you still learn from people who are just beginning because something always changes. Just like in technology, a move is changing, something gets different. I wanna go back to your time in PepsiCo. I always say the better you know the business, the better off you'll be. What did you learn about being in the beverage industry? And that 'cause that's a different place. I always ask that question because I'm curious. We understand the tech part, but what did you learn about being in the beverage industry?
Oh, so a ton. So I still bleed blue. This is a PepsiCo product I have right here for me. So so there's two things. It's CPG is the industry, consumer products and goods. Food and beverages is also the industry, and then because PepsiCo is a food and beverage company. We have both foods and beverages in our portfolio. And I'm talking as if I'm still there, but after 33 years, it's definitely in my blood. I learned a lot about marketing. So, we are a marketing company. We've always been in operations organizations, but marketing has been at the forefront. This weekend that we are sitting in now, and this might air in a couple of weeks, but for we're airing on Super Bowl weekend. This is the weekend that PepsiCo spends a healthy amount of money of their marketing budget goes into commercials at the Super Bowl. And so being in a company that makes sure their product is out in front, I've learned, like, how do you market something? How do you think about your consumer and what does your consumer want to see? What's their perspective? So learned about marketing. I actually, in the role that I had in global procurement, so for 6 years I supported the global procurement function, kind of like a functional CIO. And we were married to each other and everything that they wanted to do for that business. Now think about it, at the time I was engaged with them. They were probably a $25 billion part of PepsiCo. So global procurement, if you take this product, global procurement buys the labels, buys the plastic, buys the top. We buy the water inside and how that water is going to be produced. That's the directs part of global procurement. The other part is we buy every other piece of service or infrastructure or um, device that's required to run your business, and that's indirect procurement. So I spent a lot of time really focusing on the indirect procurement side of the house, and I learned so much around how do we buy and spend money at PepsiCo. And it's not just for PepsiCo, for any business, in the services that you buy, in all the ingredients you have to buy in order to make your product. So that was really cool. We ran a program, and I ran a global program called My Buy, which was really focused on indirect procurement spend, and it was focused on the tail spend. And there's so much waste in the tail spend. How could you be more efficient with that? It was great because the business asked me not only to put in the technology, but to be accountable for the business part of it, the business ROI. And so I was inundated with the one, developing the strategy, building a global program, getting it sold into different markets across the world, showing them what their return of their investment was going to be, and then deploying it, and then being accountable for getting that return on the investment. So I learned the gamut on indirect procurement in that opportunity that I had. So that was one. I've learned how actual soda is made. I've learned how we make our chips. There's the slush and the slurry when you want to put flavors. So there's a slurry process that's a wet process to actually put the seasoning on your chips. There is a dry process that blows seasoning onto the chips, depending upon what type of surface it's going onto, and also what type of seasoning it is. Didn't know that before. Tasting some Fritos right hot off the line, good. That's some good stuff, especially when they've been seasoned. Tasting some popcorn, the smart food popcorn's really good right off the lines. Doing plant walkthroughs and the ability to sample the product and in a safe environment, in a safe, secured environment was really kind of cool. And then how do we ship our products and the whole shipping process? So there is literally so much that goes into manufacturing this wonderful, I feel like I'm doing a commercial, this wonderfully refreshing drink of water, but to get it from the plant to me having a consumable beverage, there's like 10,000 steps. And I think we don't appreciate the complexity of delivering a business like PepsiCo, delivering this product at scale so that you can effectively make money. But it was great. And you know what? That was the staying power for me. So everyone's like, why, what the hell? Why did you stay 33 years? I got some great experiences. And as Pepsi grew through acquisition and I moved into different areas and opportunities, it was like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. I can now learn about HR IT systems. I did payroll and labor management systems for 6 years. And I had to work on pulling 3 different divisions together into one enterprise solution. I was doing Y2K before that, totally different. Right. So it's like, oh wow, now I get to put on this hat and do this body of work underneath the umbrella of a large organization. So your benefits were the same, your tenure was developing. I would not mentor someone today and say stay somewhere for 30 years. That's flipping crazy. It worked for me, but the time then and the time now is different, right?
Okay.
So, um, it you stay as long as you are growing, learning, you're getting great opportunity, you're being appreciated and valued. At any point that stuff stops, you need to start looking. Simple as that.
You're right on that. Most people don't stay with I remember because especially like when I talk to a lot of people in my family, like, oh, you get a job, you stay there, till you retire, etc. But no one does that anymore, especially in tech. Tech people move around a lot in order to do that. But now I'm curious, we talked a little bit about mentorship earlier. I told people they call you the mentors, you're the favorite mentor of other mentors. I've said that before because you mentor so many women in tech. What made you, and this is taking a step back, what made you want to become a mentor? A lot of people can just have a great career and never mentor anybody, but what made you say, hey, I want to give back to these women in tech and see other people do great in technology?
This is easy, and this is a passion for me. From day one of me walking into PepsiCo, I was mentored and I was sponsored. I was mentored and I was sponsored. And those are two entirely different things. You can choose a mentor, a sponsor chooses you. And so much was poured into me. And I literally am going to say their names because I will want to give people their flowers while they're here and acknowledge for what they poured into me. And one of my lifelong mentors, I'm gonna like tear up, who literally poured into me day in and day out, year after year, is Ron Parker. Ron Parker was the former global chief diversity officer at PepsiCo, senior vice president of HR for a while. He was in New York when I was in New York. He moved around and we ended up being in Texas at the same time. And when he retired, he recently passed away almost a year ago. He was former CEO of ELC, just a absolutely phenomenal man and mentor, and poured so much into me for 30 years. So as did Maurice Cox, another vice president in diversity and HR at PepsiCo. So did Robert Dixon, former CIO of PepsiCo. So did Sarah Andrews, former CISO at PepsiCo. So does Valerie Freeman today, CEO of Bravo Tech. Linda Clement Holmes, former CIO of Procter & Gamble. Dr. Robert Scott, former Procter & Gamble executive and University of Michigan. Shelley Archambault, former CEO of Metric Stream, and just phenomenal board leader, and wrote a book that's been wonderfully received. So did Sherry Littlejohn, former senior vice president at Wells Fargo, and a bevy of other people who have poured into me. I would be remiss if I didn't give it back. So, I mean, like, my whole DNA would be like messed up if I didn't give it back. So I do it because it was done for me. 2, I'm a servant leader. And so I'm of service to people. And the third reason is I do it because I'm not seeing a lot of women in tech making it high level. Although people could say, Fern, you made it high level. I didn't make it high level. I made it to a vice president in a Fortune 50 organization. That is huge. I thank the good Lord every day for my blessings on it. But there's more to go. There could have been more to go. Maybe there is still more to go for me. Who knows? If it's the right opportunity, I might lean in and say, but there's so much more to aspire, and women get stuck. Women in tech get stuck. So women in tech get overlooked. The numbers equality is still not there. I love you guys, but it's still predominantly a white male dominated at the top. It's still. So that means there's a wonderful opportunity to help infuse and continue to infuse change. I love my white men on top. I love you, brothers. Love for everybody. I just would like to see more equality of women leaders making it to top roles in technology. And I say that because as I've traveled the world, and I was over 30 countries in my years at PepsiCo, 36 I think I hit at PepsiCo. I'd go to certain places and I'm like, well, where are the mini me's in these different, and it wasn't just at PepsiCo. I'd be working with other vendor companies, and I won't name their names, but because they were great partners and I don't want them to take this negative, and I'd say, well, where's the other women in tech leaders, or even more slim, Black women tech leaders in their spaces? And they weren't there. And then when they were, there was like few and far between. So it's the speck of women, and definitely the light speck of Black women in tech leadership. So I said, you know what? I feel passionate around this. I think I have things I can share and I can help. And I want to lean into giving back so that women can aspire to be whatever they want to be in tech, but also to help them accelerate their path to greatness and to make it up the ladder. Long-winded, but I am like teary heart passionate about it.
You about to make me cry. Made me think about the people that helped me get started. So it started me. I was like, you're right. People need to get their flowers while they're still around.
Get their flowers. You know what? I am right now in the middle of doing a funeral for a very good friend who passed away a couple of weeks ago. And we talked about, we got to give people their flowers now. Not, and all this praise after you've passed is great, but let's acknowledge while we're here. So gentlemen, I'm giving you your virtual flowers to say, I love what you're doing. And I appreciate that you're creating a platform to talk to technicians, talk to leaders, talk to those who love to mentor, talk to women, talk to men, different, just every hue. We're a hue right here. This right here is a wonderful to see us as talking together, to be both in the technology experience. We're of age. We won't may not. I don't want to ever admit that, but we're of age. Right. We've got some time underneath our belt, but we're giving back and we're leveraging our podcast as a way to do that. So thank you for creating a platform for it.
I gotta say this. Thank you, by the way. If you don't know this, and I think I've told you this before, you are definitely an inspiration to us. I always talk about quiet mentors, and that's the ones I never told them they were a mentor. You are a mentor of mine. I watch you and start jotting notes down on how I can get better and look at your legacy. So I definitely have to say thank you for all that you have done in the tech space. Even before we knew each other, I was watching from afar. I was like, man,
Mhm.
Fern, yeah, I need to learn some stuff from her. So definitely thank you for all that you have done.
You're
Yeah,
most
I'll
welcome.
I'll plus one that as well. So, Fern, I love how you framed it, the mentorship aspect. What is the one thing you tell mentees today? Like, what is the one thing we should all hear?
Take risks. I took risks early in my career. I think it helped me. I missed some opportunities because I didn't take the risk. I feel like we want everything perfectly ticked and tied before we'll take a risk. But um, one of my mentors said, you can take a risk, bring others with you. You can ask someone to be an accountability partner with you. And when I say take a risk, it's not just about taking a job risk. It could be, um, I'm taking a risk on a vendor partner who is maybe only 5 years in the game, and but they're 30% cheaper than going with uh, an A player vendor partner. And how do you take that risk but put the right guardrails around it to ensure as you move forward in this engagement, which will probably be a multi-year, multi-million-dollar engagement, you have the right parameters to work from. And in taking that risk, you're saving 30%, like, and on a huge multi-million-dollar initiative, that's sizable. So take risks. I don't think, I especially don't think women take enough risks. So um, take risks.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Fern effect.
Oh, look at that. Fun effect. We got
Yeah,
mentoring, we have IT consulting, we have public speaking. We've got a great podcast called Two Lit Chicks. You could listen in, listen, learn, like, subscribe, all the things. I'm enjoying. You know what? You know what's so nice about this phase of my life? I'm enjoying myself. I like the diversity of the work that I'm doing. I love this ability to serve, and lead, and grow all, all in one. So, yeah. Thank you, guys.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we are paying attention, Fern.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And this is a great way to put a bow on the week. So I had two podcasts back to back. I taped one. I gave one. I'm all teary eyed over here. I'm like thinking about my people.
I gotta ask you, Fern, since we're talking about podcasts, you do have your own podcast. I would love for you to just let our audience know about your podcast. How did it start? Give us some history on Two Lick Chicks.
So great. So my podcast partner is Dr. Alicia Makaye. She owns a company called GXA Technology with her husband, George. And she tapped me on the shoulder to write a book. And we started on a journey to write a book. And then we said, well, as we were kind of ideating that, we said, wow, we need to build a following and an audience. And we said, why don't we start to do a podcast? So she's bringing the entrepreneur perspective. I was bringing the corporate perspective. And we said, if we want to give back, let's start having conversations with people, young people, people who are more mature and seasoned in their career, and try to build a following and actually have conversations around giving it back and paying it forward for leaders in tech. And so, we were two women and we were both leaders in tech. And I was walking my dog one day and Too Legit to Quit came. Too legit, too legit to quit came to mind. And I was like, Two Lit Chicks. I was like, that's it. Leaders in tech. So you can see I'm energetic, right? So I was like, oh my God, Alicia, I found the name. And and it stuck. And anyone who's of age kind of knows the MC Hammer song, Too Legit to Quit. So when you hear Two Lit Chicks, that kind of rings in your mind and it brings a smile. So it was like, okay, I get it. That's what most people are like, oh, okay, I get it. Cool. Okay. And that's kind of how it started. So we are now into season 3. You can find us on all the socials, at Two Lit Chicks Podcast. And it's been fun. A lot to learn with this podcasting stuff, right? You think you're just like, you're just like, hey, hold on, I'm getting the mic. But no, it's not just that. It's a lot more that goes into it, right, fellas?
It
Mhm.
does.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I would agree. Even when we started, I did not know we were even gonna make it to season 2 or not, but, it's been a good ride, but I would say if you just wanna talk about technology, it's something that you learn and you get interested into it. I didn't once we started, I was like, "Man, I wanna learn as much as I can about podcasting and the technology behind it." So, I think it's just when you're in tech, you become inquisitive and you want to know more about other industries or other areas where technology is. I also, of course, since we do talk about tech a lot on here, of course, we got to go a little bit more into AI before you go. I'm just curious on your thought in the landscape of how the next couple of years are going to go with AI and robotics now in the forefront for the most part. You see it everywhere, even in conferences. What do you think the landscape is going to look for a CIO or CTO? What do you think that's going to look like in the future?
Uh, so AI is, I think, so if I put a pyramid here, I think we've just scratched the surface on what AI is going to do in industry. So I'll use this analogy. So we're right here, right? And this top, there's all this that's going to have to come. So I feel like what I say today will be different in 6 months. I think it's how do we be agile with use of AI in our business? How do we make sure that CIOs have to think about not just infusing AI, what is it solving? What problem is it solving? Right. And so if we just go into it without a strategy, then I think there'll be a lot of pilots and POCs that don't go to market. And that's wasted money for an organization. And I think a CIO has got to have that mindset. First of all, I think the title CIO is going away, right? So we're hearing CDIO, CDO, we're hearing a whole bunch. So I feel like leadership titles will change over the next 5 years in the tech space. That's one. And I think because of AI, it will drive a change in how we look at what those leadership roles are. Outside of that title change, I think the leaders who are driving AI have to make sure that they're solving business problems for their organization, not just infusing AI willy-nilly. So there is a responsibility of how we leverage it within the business, that every leader, I think, needs to take to heart. I think we also need to, and leaders need to have an innovation fund that allows an AI place and space to learn and play within that organization to figure out what's going to fit for them and then what will scale, right? So if you think of organizations that we're all a part of, and I'll just speak to the one that I'm closest to, PepsiCo, a solution that you're going to have for a $100 billion organization to scale effectively is going to be very different from a Fortune 2000 that is maybe $100 million organization, right? And so we also have to think about, leaders have to think about, is the technology in AI mature enough for whatever they want to lean into? Or do they say, you know what? We don't think it's ready to scale. So how do we keep it in a contained space where they can leverage it and use it and learn, until the technology is ready for it? So I think it's going to be a fun playground over the next 10, 15 years. I wouldn't even say that. It's going to be a fun playground in the next 5 years because I think so much is going to change with AI and how it redefines how business is operating. Again, while it's an accelerator and it's a tool, we have to still think about strategy. What is it solving? Can it scale? And how do we have creative spaces to drive innovation for first, and then you can figure out how deploy it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I think that everyone should have. If you don't have 10 fingers and 10 toes knee deep in it, then you're asleep at the wheel.
So is that what winning looks like in the age of AI, Fern?
Well, I think it's smart. It's operating smart with AI. So I wouldn't say it's again, it's not haphazard, right? But what is winning with AI? It's embracing it's embracing what it's going to allow us to do at speed and at scale. Winning with if you just have AI and it's not solving a business problem, I feel that then all you're doing is saying you're playing with AI. Then you're teetering with AI, but you're really not leveraging it to its fullest capability. So I'm back to what problem is it solving? And that's what winning with AI is using it as accelerators to help you either transform, solve problems, grow, scale. It's got to solve.
I think that's a wonderful way to tie it back to what you were saying earlier. You gotta know the business.
Mm.
Absolutely. So one of the tenants for PepsiCo was know the business cold. And every year, in the Indra eras, I think it's probably morphed a little bit differently now, but it was one of the key tenets was, how you did the work, right? How you bringing others along with you, but know the business cold. And of course, that doesn't mean you need to know every line of business, but one of the things that we would do early on in people's careers, take them on route rides. The front line is the guy who is delivering, guy or gal, who's delivering this product, right, to our consumers. And our consumers could be a big Walmart, or it could be Kroger's or an Albertsons, or it could be a school. And how they deliver and how they get this product into the trade, that's one way to learn the business. How do we sell? How do you sell this product? Right? I spent a lot of time with how do we make the product in the supply chain side of it, right? That was my area of knowing the business cold. But yeah, it's important that you understand the business that you're working within.
Mm. I agree. I agree. So, Fern, I know we're getting close to time, and with everyone who's on our podcast, we always ask what your theme music is, and that's the theme music that gets you ready for the day. I know you work out on a regular basis, so I'm curious to know
Yeah.
what's in those headphones when you're working out. What's your theme music?
So I have a lot of theme music. So I have a lot of playlists. So when I'm working out, it changes based upon my vibe and what's going on. But my song that's been rocking with me for 30 plus years is by the Sounds of Blackness, and it's called Optimistic. You can win as long as you keep your head to the sky.
Oof, I know that song. I hear it already. I don't know if you know it, Amir. I know that song.
Now,
That's a
if
good.
you really want to get me going, my intro and outro to this podcast episode can be a little snippet of that, if that's not going to put you in copyright infringement, but you can win as long as you keep your head to the sky.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Fern, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. When I say it was a master class, it was definitely a master class.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate you so much, not just being on our podcast, but being one of our great friends, one of our partners in Lone Star Leadership. It has definitely been a pleasure, and we thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Amir, I love learning from you. And you are a quiet giant. And so I'm glad that you're now in my friend network, because I'm going to be getting some time to pull from that brain of yours to help me level up and learn.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. And I will say to our Black Belts and Boardrooms audience, we will see you on the next one.